everyone, it's Carrie, aka Nerdygirlcreates. Welcome to Indie Friday, and today I'm going to be interviewing Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini, the creators of Kamen America. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Well, I understand you have a new campaign coming up for Kamen America.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, we are planning on launching our campaign on either June the 21st or June 28th. So it is going to be towards the end of June, but that will set us up for a pretty good fall fulfillment, and we're very excited to be concluding the second saga of the Kamen America story thus far.
That is great. And did you guys ever think you'd get this far up to a volume 8?
I mean, you always want to go as far as you can, but I don't think it's so much that we didn't think we'd make it this far. It's more like when you're climbing like a really tall mountain and you don't think about it, and then you look back and you're like, holy cow, like we made it a long way.
Yeah.
And then here we are, we're already at the second omnibus, and I reminisce about how it was just almost like yesterday where I thought, oh, we collected 4 volumes into one omnibus, what a feat. And then here we are already the second one, and time really does fly when you're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2003, and we launched Kamen America 1 in the spring of, or the summer
of
spring
2020.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's only been 2.5 years, so it doesn't seem like that long ago. I mean, it feels like it was a long time ago, like we've been doing Kamen America for 10 years, but it's only been like 2.5 years. And yet here we are. We're on volume 8, and I'm finishing up the script on volume 9 right now.
Oh, great! I can't wait.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, I actually started on page 1 today, so that's pretty exciting.
I mean, it is amazing that what you guys, because you have gathered a huge fan base with Kamen America, and not just here in the States. You've got like a big fan base going there in Japan.
It's fairly, I mean, obviously compared to, let's say, a mainstream manga audience, it's still relatively small, but for independent hobbyists who have only been doing comics really for less than 5 years, it is a pretty substantial following. And I think we just happened to hit the jackpot because we just happen to have a core group of Japanese readers who are pretty involved with Comiket. And Comiket, for people who don't know, is the largest comic convention in the world. And it's a doujinshi convention. So it's a convention put on, I think it's called the Big Shot or the Big Sky Convention Center in Tokyo. And it's where people sell fan-made works. So it's not there for celebrities, not there for mainstream publications. It's there solely for fan-created works of art. And so that Japanese group, it's been growing steadily pretty much every single week, because the editor, Yoshida-san, he's just always recruiting people and basically trying to convert them to Kamen America and just say, hey, you should read this. It's an American publication, but it's fun. And so as of today, June the 9th, they announced that they did get another entry into Comiket for this year, so that'll make not only the third year, but also I think they've pretty much made every single summer Comiket in sequence, which is not easy because it's done via lottery system. And they call themselves Circle Badger, that's the name of their publication. And they're already working on the third doujinshi, which is going to be debuting in August. So they're all really hard at work doing that. The owner of Iconic Comics actually went to Japan earlier this year in January, and he actually met Yoshida-san, and they had a really nice conversation. So we're just very grateful for them because they have surpassed Australia as our second biggest country. So our pie chart for readership is about 35% Japanese, and the rest being other countries, but mostly America. America making up about 50% of our audience.
That is just great. That is amazing. And do you guys have any plans, like maybe going to Japan, doing anything with for the Japanese fan base?
That is a long-term goal. I just don't know what to do. I mean, we're in pretty constant contact with a group of them because they're all really nice and very friendly. For people not familiar with Japanese Twitter, it's it's like that meme where it's the two guys on like a bus and one guy's looking out one window and it's like dark and gloomy and the other guy is looking out the window and it's sunny. There is a thing called Japanese Twitter, and it's definitely kind of reflective of their culture. They don't use social media to be confrontational or to start fights or anything like that. They kind of just gravitate to what they like and just try to be positive. So we know that if Mark and I were to go there, we definitely have a group of people that we will hang out with because they're just super nice, super friendly. We talk all the time. It would just be the reason for going there is, I guess that's the next step, is us trying to think, like, why should we be there?
So Yoshida-san, all right, so people sometimes ask us, like, how do you get a Japanese fan base? And our answer is, like, we don't know. Like, it just sort of, like, happened. I mean, so Yoshida-san, he was kind of like patient zero. He's found Kamen America completely on his own, and he liked it. And he translated it completely using the Google Eye system, which is an app where you can take your iPhone and you can hover it over foreign text, and it will translate it into Japanese or English or whatever. And he did a completely text-based translation of Kamen America Volume 1. And anybody who bought in Japan, who bought the English version of Volume 1, he would send them the Japanese text-only translations. And so he helped basically raise awareness of Kamen America in Japan, where they could, in a way that they could actually read it. And then he started contacting us and talking to us, and he was a really nice guy, a really cool guy. And we just sort of started, and like, once that convinced us that there was a Japanese readership waiting for a Japanese translation of Kamen America. So we put one on Amazon via Kindle and print on demand, and then that became one of our biggest Amazon sellers. And so now I've been doing every volume in Japanese, and now we're releasing Kamen America in English and Japanese simultaneously via Kickstarter and Amazon, etc. And they're doing the doujinshis. They're on volume 3 now. But all that just kind of happened organically. I don't think that there's a rhyme or a reason or a method, or else, like, everybody would do it, right? So it just sort of happened that way, and we're just really, really thankful that we met the right fans over in Japan.
There's kind of 3 people who really helped with that movement. I mean, obviously you had Yoshida-san. Another one is, he was actually our first Japanese reader. His name is Omema-san. And the thing that Yoshida-san, and then the third person, Sudapiko-san, have in common is I think they're very cultural, and they like seeing what American entertainment has to offer. And so they're not opposed to buying American products and trying to, like, look at them kind of from that cultural lens. Like, Yoshida-san, when he's not talking about Kamen America, he's trying out, like, dishes all the time. Like, he's really big into American barbecue. In one of the most surreal stories I have, he was like, I really want to know what this meat is. And I'm like, oh, it's pastrami. He's like, pastrami? I've never tried this before. And I was like, I knew he lived in Tokyo. And so I went on Google Maps and I go, well, if you want, there's this train station that goes under a deli, and they serve 5-star pastrami there. And he goes, I go there for lunch. And an hour later, he's posting a photo at that place. By coincidence, he just happened to be like 2 train stations away. And he just showed up. He went to that New York deli. He just bought a lot of, like, a pastrami sandwich. And I told my one of my family members, I was like, this is one of the most surreal interactions I have ever had. And then in the doujin, he put the recipe for fried alligator, because he read it in our book, and he was like, you eat alligator? And we're like, yeah, in the South we do. And he was like, I have to try this. So he imported the alligator. One of his friends is like a chef at a restaurant, so he fried the alligator. Then he asked people online, well, what's the best thing to eat with alligator? Is it nacho cheese sauce, remoulade sauce? And they went all out, and they had the authentic like American dish. And then the third person was Sudapiko-san, because I don't know how she found it, but what happened was, I think Mark was looking for the Kamen America hashtag, and she had been doing cosplay for the characters for at least like 3 months before we found her. And I was like, who the heck is this person? And it turns out she likes Western entertainment. I mean, obviously she likes Japanese entertainment too, but she's willing to kind of try it out. And so she and we have been talking, and she and Yoshida-san are our editors for Japanese translations because their knowledge of English is pretty good. And so we're just very blessed and fortunate. But like what Mark was saying, we get that question a lot. People are like, well, I want that Japanese audience. And I'm like, we don't know what to tell you because we completely stumbled into it by accident.
I see all the time on Twitter fan art from so many people who are fans of Kamen America, and I mean, that could be something to see.
Yeah, I always tell people that I think as an artist, the reason it's flattering is because, let's say I sit down and I draw a character, and it might take me an hour. That's an hour where you know that character is percolating and dwelling in your head. So to have someone sit down and dedicate time to drawing art means that there has to be something about the character that resonates with them enough to put that time and effort into it. So that type of stuff is really humbling to see. And, you know, we're at the point now where we see it almost on a daily basis, and we do our best to try and save all of those images and, you know, reuse them and give credit and stuff. But I don't know. That's one of those things that you try not to take for granted because, you know, 4 years ago, it's not something that happened at all.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how long, you know, the Kamen America train's gonna run, how long people love it. We're just gonna enjoy our time in the sun. But when we see people who love our characters and so Kamen America, the way we write it and the way Tim draws it and the way we present it is that it's kind of like 90s X-Men. It's supposed to be meant, you know, for an all ages audience. You know, the girls are pretty and sometimes there's a little bit of violence, but no gore, no swearing, no anything. It's very PG-12 almost. And so when we see that people show like Kamen America, or especially Black Ops, you know, and they have like their kids reading it and their kids watching it, and we see like fan art from kids, you know, that really warms my heart because they're like, oh wow, like I remember when I was 8 years old in elementary school and I was reading X-Men, you know, and that meant a lot to me. And so someone's reading Black Ops and they're drawing USAGI, and I see a little kid sending us a drawing. I'm like, oh man, that's amazing. That really warms my heart.
Because I do a lot of reviews with manga, I've seen a lot of people who are mostly manga fans starting to talk about Kamen America. And they really like the artwork, and I know you guys are big fans of manga. Did you take a lot of inspiration from manga when you were creating Kamen America?
Well, I guess yes and no. I've been reading manga. I've been reading manga recently because, as I think you're pretty much well versed on this topic, but the failure of a lot of American comics has made it so that you try to seek out alternatives.
Yes.
And when I was growing up, I actually was not big into manga at all. The only appeal I saw about it was the art, but I was not sold on the storytelling. But obviously after years of persuasion, I was like, well, you know, with a dearth of material to choose from, let's just start. And I picked up some manga and I watched some anime and I said, wow, this has changed since whatever we were exposed to in the 90s, and I actually like this stuff better. And so I use it mostly as a study template. Now, if you look at Kamen America, it's not written in a manga style. It's still written in a very American fashion. So everything is not decompressed. Everything is actually rather compressed. But we do take a lot of inspiration from how they tell a story. Like, one thing that they do is that I think when you look at decompression, there's a difference between a good manga and, let's say, a Brian Michael Bendis version of decompression. Both are decompressed, but the way that they approach that storytelling method is completely separate from each other. What manga does is, yes, they have a little bit more time and space to tell the story, but they don't waste your time with every panel. If they're going to take 10 panels to kind of slow roll something, it's there because it's intended to generate suspense or to show a passage of time that's meaningful. So in that sense, I think we do borrow aspects from manga, but I know that Mark he's not trying to ape or mimic it whenever he's writing these stories.
I had I had a fun conversation with Tim when we were going over the final page proofs for Black Ops 6, which is going to come out this winter. And I was looking at the pages that Tim sent me, and the pages would have like 6 panels on them. And I'd be like, Tim, my script had 4 panels on them. Why did you like plus it? And he's like, Mark, I'm happy. I like it when you write less and give me room to do more, to draw more. And I'm like, well, cool, because I'm doing less work and you're doing more work. That's fine by me. But, so it's taught me a lot about decompression. If you go back to like Black Ops Volume 1 and you see how wordy it is compared to, Kamen America 7, the most recent book, there are fewer panels, fewer words. Tim pluses it where he needs to. He adds more panels where he needs to, but I've learned a lot since then, and a lot of that does come from manga. I mean, you look at manga, and the dimensions of the pages on manga are obviously much smaller than an American comic. If you go over 4 panels on a manga page, then you're really pushing it. So I try to think of that when I'm sending my script in. I try to if I'm going over 4 panels on a page, then I'm pushing it. 6 panels is the max, and I send that to Tim. And then if I send Tim 4 panels and he does 6 and he can push it, or if I send him 4 panels and he does 4 and he goes all out, then he can. But yeah, we do learn a lot from manga, but we are American comic artists and writers, so that's generally the perspective we come from.
And you had mentioned Black Ops, and one of the things that's been happening a lot more in Kamen America is expanding the universe. You've had crossovers with Black Ops, you've had now crossovers with Soulfinder, Doug Ertz's character, and you've even hinted about more characters coming in. Do you want to continue expanding that world with other characters beyond this?
Yes, in the sense that it has to feel organic. One thing we decided to do was Black Ops as a team has a roster that will always change. It's kind of like, if you remember in G.I. Joe in the 1980s, there's sometimes when you need, obviously Dusty or whoever, Blizzard, they're not going to be on every mission because one guy is designed to be in like sand situations, one other guy is supposed to be in Arctic situations, so sometimes you need the right person for the job. Well, Black Ops is like that too, where depending on the mission, they're going to need someone, we have to pull from someone in order to make it happen. However, we can't just pull from anyone, and the problem is that in independent comics, we have to team up with people who not only do we feel like we can gel well with from a personal point of view, but it has to be someone whose character feels natural and organic for the universe and not shoehorned in. I was just thinking about this the other day because we announced that Scott Malin is going to be joining Iconic Comics with his book Kindred Heavens. The problem is that his book takes place in the 1920s, and because we have no concept of time travel in our universe, there's just no way right now I can conceivably think of it. Even if we wanted to do something that was a collaborative effort, it's just not there and it's not right for the moment. So while we're always open for the potential of new characters popping in, we're actually going to take a break for a while. With Black Ops 6, it's actually going to be the last of the crossover series, and then we're going to recontinue with kind of episodic Black Ops focused centric stories moving on with Black Ops 7.
And speaking of expanding, you've also delved into the world of Webtoons recently. You've had 2 Webtoon series based on the Kamen America. Do you have plans to expand into anything else?
We do, but we can't reveal it because it's a big secret. What I can tell people is Kamen Academy will not continue forever. But I can't say when it will end, but when it does, we have something else that we have planned. What we can talk about, though, that is kind of common knowledge, is we do have the Kamen America manga that is coming out, and hopefully that will be ready by maybe spring of next year if we're fortunate. And that, I think, will kind of scratch that itch for people who are looking for more content, because the book is already about 3/4 of the way done, and it is fantastic. It's one of those things
it's amazing. So the Kamen America web series, that's one thing that a lot of people kind of gave us crap about. They're like, oh, you're putting out, a comic for free? You're not making any money on that once a week? Like, where's your return on that? And like, well, it means that we have new content that we can promote once a week online, and then we have a backlog of content that people can find online, and if they like it, then they can go and find our main series on Amazon and on Iconic Comics and on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, etc. And so that's worked out a lot for us. And then once we accumulate enough of each series, then we publish a printed collection. So like the original Kamen America, the web series, which was a bunch of side stories that take place between the main volumes. Once we completed that cycle, that's now available as Kamen America Gaiden. You can find it on iconiccomics.com. And we also made it available in hardcover on the previous campaign, but it's available now on the website. And the one we're doing right now is Kamen Academy, which is the girls from Kamen America putting on their own really low budget public access TV drama based on the kind of anime we watch, like K-On! And Azumanga Daioh and stuff like that. They're the kind of schoolyard fun. And that's going to go on for about a year. And then we're going to move on to a new version, a new story once that's completed. But we get to put something new out every week. And so every week there's something new for fans to share and to enjoy and to keep us relevant. There's always new content coming out. And it's something that's a lot of extra work, especially on Tim's part. He's got to draw it, but it really pays off, I think.
And I think it's great marketing, because I've seen a lot of webtoons lately be getting adapted by, Eyes Press is doing a lot of webtoon adaptations into physical format, and people are buying it, even though it's still available out there on webtoons. So there is a kind of a relationship there with yes, look, it's here on webtoons, but there's more to these characters over here. So if you like this, come on over and buy more.
Yeah, and I know that some people want to use webtoons as kind of a springboard for getting an anime or going into publication. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we don't want to do is, obviously, we create the content for free, but the payoff has to be there at the end. And for us, the payoff is what Mark just mentioned, which is, worst comes to worst, we're going to compile it and then publish it on our own, which is what we did with Gaiden. We're not really ambitious people. We kind of have lofty goals, but it's okay if we don't reach them. We just kind of put steps on the ladder as we kind of climb towards it, and we don't know if we're going to make it or not, but that's okay. But I would just encourage people that, I know you're going to hear a lot of people, a lot of experts and pros say, don't do stuff for free, don't put your stuff on Webtoon. But for us, it's good marketing, because, like I told Mark, I was like, give me a script that I can work on for about 2.5 or 3 hours on a Sunday on my downtime. And that's just something we put up every Wednesday. And people like it because it's hump day. It's a nice little break from whatever you have going on. It's free to read. There's no purchase necessary unless you want to at the end of everything. And it doesn't take me a lot of time to do. In fact, I like it because I get to kind of practice doing art. That's one of the things that kind of drives me crazy, is when I don't have anything to draw. So now there's no excuse, because I pretty much have something to draw all the time. But it's worked out for us so far.
Yeah, we've created our own little, it's almost like a weekly holiday. We call it Waku Waku Wednesday, and Waku Waku is Japanese for very exciting. And so every Wednesday we do, hey everybody, it's Waku Waku Wednesday, new Kamen Academy or new Kamen America the web series. And you'll notice that when we launch a new Kickstarter campaign for Kamen America 8 or 9 or whatever, we always do it on a Wednesday, it's a Waku Waku Wednesday. And we've noticed that people now, even I wake up, at 6 a.m. to go to work. I get to work at 7:30, and by the time I log into my PC, I see 5 or 6 people who got up before me saying like, "Hey everybody, it's Waku Waku Wednesday," like they beat me to it. So it's kind of becoming our own little like branding thing for Wednesdays. People they expect a new Kamen America something on Wednesday, on Waku Waku Wednesday, and so we're really happy to own that.
And it's great. I mean, I see it too all the time on Twitter. Everybody's like promoting, guess what? New chapter or Waku Waku Wednesday. Come on, let's do this. But I also know you guys have like your day jobs. One of the things I've always been impressed with you is that you get your books out in a timely manner. Is there a secret?
The secret is we are responsible for our own time schedule. And I don't know why it's such a controversial topic, but it's like, okay, so for the people listening at home, we are not told by anyone that we need to get a book out by this date. But I know how fast I draw. Mark knows how fast he writes. I know how fast a printer takes to print books, and I know how soon they can ship it to me. So I don't understand how the math is difficult. If I'm able to do, let's say I do a page a day, and there's 64 pages, that's 64 days. Let's go ahead and give me a buffer of an extra 30 days for incidentals, that's 90 days. Let's add 3 weeks for shipping. So let's put that at 140 days. Let's do another month for incidentals. That's your time schedule for when you think a book is going to come out. So I just don't understand like why those dates can't be met, especially for people who are like, well, I worked in the industry and I'm used to making comics. I'm like, but so that if you're working on issue 10 of Spider-Man, you're working on issue 10 of Spider-Man at least a year ahead of time. I mean, these books are produced way, way, way in advance. So, and this is with an editor telling you this. Now you don't have an editor. You're on your own. I mean, in my opinion, it's the difference between you being in high school and your mom or dad waking you up in the morning to go to school versus you being in college where you set your own time. So what it all boils down to is ultimately Mark and I are responsible for our own timekeeping. Right now, I'm working on Kamen America 9, which comes out in January of next year, and here we are in June, so I'm 6 months ahead of schedule. I know that, hey, I have to have the book done no later than, let's say, November 1st. So I have that huge gap in which to do this. Now, I know that people can be late because of certain extraneous factors that they don't have any control over, but I think there's a difference between it happening one time versus like twice, at which point there's just no excuse, especially if you say that you're a professional. It's like, Mark and I aren't even professionals. This is just a hobby for us. Like, I'm sorry, like some people get offended by that, but it's like, if anything, if we can do it, you can do it, because I mean, I don't think it's rocket science. I'm sorry. I know that that's offensive to a lot of people, but that's just the reality.
I mean, as a writer, I feel like I have in the assembly line of this process, I feel like I have the easiest job with no excuse whatsoever. Let's say I write 5 pages a day. So like the longest process, honestly, between me and Tim is coming up with the summary and the page breakdowns for each volume, so that we're both on the same page of how everything's going to proceed, bullet point by bullet point. Once that's done, then I have my roadmap on how to write. Once I have my page breakdowns, I know what I'm gonna write on page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so like I write 5 pages a day. I'll have this 55-page script done in a week and a half. And I mean, so my deadline for Kamen America 9 for the script to Tim is the 13th, which is Tuesday of next week. And I'm practically done. But on Monday, I wasn't feeling very well, so I just wrote Kamen Academy scripts and sent those to Tim on Monday. But like, okay, well, if I'm missing a day, then I gotta do 6 pages a day, and then 7 pages on Friday. And so I did 6 pages Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then 7 pages today. And then I'm gonna be done on Tuesday and send out the final draft to Tim. But it's just, staying on schedule. Making a deadline for yourself, and I think that's what a lot of creators don't do, is they don't set themselves with a deadline. They just have this idea of like, oh, it'll be done when it's done, and like, well, that could be next week, that could be next year. You give yourself a deadline and then stick to it. Learn some discipline.
There was a funny instance that happened with Kamen America Volume 6. No, I'm sorry, it was Volume 5. No, wait, it was Volume 6.
It was Volume 6, yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was we had gotten some feedback from Volume 5, and I was already working with Volume 6, and I called Mark, and I was like, we need to have a very serious conversation, because one of the things that people did not like about 5 was they said there's a lot of info dump here, a lot of exposition. And so in my mind, I was like, I can see in my mind how we can take the meat of Volume 6 and trim the fat to make it leaner and make people happier. And Mark was like, oh my gosh, well that means I have to rewrite this whole portion, and I can't do that like in one night. And I was like, you're not gonna do it in one night. We're gonna do it like in those cartoons where there's a runaway train and like you have the guy like building the train track.
And it's playing the powerhouse in the background, like we're doing that.
And so that's what we did. And I was like, Mark, I can draw a page a day. That's a script page a day. That's what we're gonna do. And he's like, what page are you on? I was like, I'm on page 12. I'm telling you need to make the pages starting with page 14. So from page 14, we're gonna start building this track as we go. And I was like, if I can draw, color, and ink a page a day, you can write a script page a day, and this is how we're gonna do it. And we did it, because it's like, we still have to keep things on track, and sometimes that requires a little bit of
And it was good, because Kamen America 6 is one of my favorite issues. If I have to pick favorites, Kamen America 6 is one of my favorite volumes of the whole series. And we radically improved it, at the last minute, laying the track as we went along. And I'm so happy with how it turned out, compared to what the original script was, which I thought was good when I submitted that to Tim, and that was Tim was drawing. But Tim was like, Mark, I think we can make this better. We just need to change completely the second act, the middle of the Oreo. And I was like, okay. And we were doing that, and it turned out to be such a stronger book as a result, Like, sometimes you have to let your ego go, like, away. Like, you think like what you've written or what you've drawn is like, this is as good as it gets, but you have to realize that maybe it could be better, and then just at the last minute you can make it better. And I was so glad that Tim said, like, Mark, let's just do this. Let's rewrite the second act, rewrite the middle of the Oreo, and make it better. And we did.
That was one of those moments where it was that was the review where I was sweating bullets, because there are certain people, when they critique our work, I pay very close attention, because I know that the critique is coming from a very good place. These are people who have read our stuff, they know the lore, and I feel like their input would be really good. And so I started like looking at all of these and listening to some of the reviews, and they all said the same thing. Like, I like the volume, but man, what an exposition dump. Like, there's so many characters to keep track of. I feel like there wasn't enough time to breathe. So I looked over at that Volume 6's script, and I was like, okay, let me try and play this in my head from a third person. And I'm like, holy cow, we're doing it again. Like, we have got to trim some of this out. And it was afterwards where, Mark was like, that is a lot of fat to trim out. And I said, I know, but trust me on this. Like, I'm trying to see it from this kind of third eye, and I really do think it's going to be better. But I was so anxious, because I was like, this is going to make or break it for some of these readers, because if we don't do something to release the pressure of content from 6, they might not come back for 7. And what Mark was saying is true. Like, it is probably the best chapter so far in the 4 volumes of the second saga, because people said, man, I like the fact that it's a Sylvia volume. We get to see more of her backstory. We get to see the interaction with her father. I feel like this is one of those character development moments that are crucial going forward. And I'm like, whew, thank goodness, because I was like, Mark is gonna strangle me when he's like, did you read the reviews? Like, I hate it. It was boring.
Well, what we learned is that we cram so much plot, you feel like you have to put like plot, move everything forward, like an ongoing, out of control freight train, and it's like, no. sometimes you can just like take a break and have character moments. You know, people want us to have like, so Uncanny X-Men would have a baseball issue, and that was one thing that was famous in like the 80s and the 90s, like where there would just be an issue where the characters would just play baseball. No plot, none of them, just the characters playing baseball. And those were great, but you know, we're doing our book, like there's only 2 volumes of Kamen America that come out a year, so we can't do a baseball issue. But we can have these like decompressed moments where the characters are just living their lives and being normal, and we found out that our readers really like that. They like that decompressed moment where the characters are just sort of relaxing. And so that entire second act of volume 6 where the characters are in the hotel and they're all just sort of like chilling, like that wasn't in the first draft of the script. That was something that we did when we did that hectic rewrite. And that was the part that so many of our readers said that they loved. It's like, I just love seeing these characters just living their normal lives, like in a hotel room. And we're like, that's where we can put that kind of stuff. We don't always have to be on this runaway freight train of plot. We can just take a minute, you know, and breathe.
And you know, I'm glad you brought up character development because it is one of the things I also do love about Kamen America, but I think it's also one of the biggest problems we see in like mainstream and some other comics where there is no development of the character outside of just like either the fight or they're spending a lot of time hanging out. It's either one or the other. There's no kind of like a balance. And I think that's what's really nice about Kamen America. There is this really nice balance between them being superheroes, their relationships, and their character development, especially like the Sylvie thing, because that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, in a way we play on easy mode sometimes because of kind of where we draw our inspiration. So I pointed out on other streams that the way we look at the principal cast, the 4 main characters, is they represent an aspect of what they call quintessential, like not quintessential, I'm sorry, but like kind of classical virtues. And those are truth, goodness, and beauty. So you can look at Misha, and she's representative of truth because no matter how unpopular the opinion is, she's always going to speak her mind and kind of tell you very bluntly how something is. Kimiko is goodness because she's always going to kind of make the pure-hearted decision because she's always meaning well. And then Sylvia represents beauty because she's physically a very beautiful person and she's graceful and whatnot. But where we cheat is that just because you have that strength on one side does not mean that you're sufficient in another. So, for example, Misha's probably the only person on the team who's literally murdered people because of her background. So obviously she's lacking in the goodness factor. Sylvia's problem is that she is almost obsessed with her superficiality, and she has a lot to work on as far as like her other character traits are concerned. Kimiko is almost too good to a fault, where she will always do kind of the right thing, but she'll also be deficient in terms of, let's say, knowing when to.
If Carly's like done something wrong, Kimiko might not tell her the truth, you know, because she respects Carly too much, you know, that kind of thing.
And so we're able to play with the characters in that sense and develop them because we treat them like a sliding scale. Like, you can make them more interesting by injecting a little bit of this into them. And then suddenly they're not like a one-dimensional character, there's more to them. That was why, since the beginning, when Mark created or invented the character of Sylvia, she was always my favorite, because I was like, in anime, I like the haughty noblewoman trope. I like the girls that go, oh, ho, 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 because it's honestly something that doesn't really exist in Western fiction and Western media. Right. But I was like, typically in a lot of those shows, they're one-dimensional characters. They're kind of cookie cutter, and if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But what if we take the character and we show you a side of them that you weren't expecting? Such as in Volume 6, where we make her sympathetic by showing that she's actually a good person. Like, there's things that she does that are well-meaning, even though they don't come across that way. So those are those opportunities to kind of show that growth by knowing where our characters are coming from. And I think that that's what kind of resonates with everyone, because everyone has their own expectations based on what we introduce to them, but we don't show you what we know about those characters below the surface.
also another thing I love is the villains. You've got the kind of villain where they have the tragic reveal, and then you have the straight up evil villains. I've seen a lot of inspiration, especially with the latest ones that seem to be like the evil Power Rangers. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah, that's a Mark thing. I'll let him talk about that because he's the Power Rangers.
So the Zener Rangers, I mean, that was something that I was really, really insistent on. I mean, I had that idea in my head for a long time. I wanted to do like an evil Super Sentai parody villains, and so I sent him like all the information, like, oh, you know, Super Sentai, because I've been watching, like, didn't I mention at the start of this stream that I spent like 2020 watching 7 seasons of Power Rangers? So I learned a lot from that. And so I was like, oh man, this is how they theme Super Sentai teams. This is how they design them. This is what symbolism they use. It's everything. So we came up with a team of henshin heroes that are themed around Zener cards, which are if you ever watched Ghostbusters and you see Peter Venkman at the beginning and he's testing that girl in his lab on psychic phenomenon, he's using Zener cards, which are cards that have 5 symbols on them, 5 members of a Super Sentai team. And so we themed all of that. We themed them around psychic phenomenon, psychokinetic, hydrokinetic, ectokinetic, etc. And then the characters grew out of that, and I've had so much fun exploring them. And even though Kamen America Volume 8 is going to be the end of the second saga in Kamen America, I recommend everyone stick around for Kamen America Volume 9 and the start of the third saga, because we're going to be exploring every member of the Zener Rangers and why they are connected to that form of psychic phenomenon they are, how they were selected by, we're not going to say who, to be a Zener Ranger, their origins, their connections to the story. They're all very interesting characters. I'm finishing up Kamen America Volume 9 right now, and the Zener Ranger who's the star of that one, I'm having a lot of fun writing them. But I really, really enjoyed doing that. Obviously, Vicky is the villain. She was the villain of the first saga of Kamen America, and people really resonated with her. She was very sad. We knew exactly what we wanted to do with her from Volume 1, and so that was the character that we were able to really seed everything and set up all the little nuances and hints and everything that would lead up to her fall. But she's the character we've been building up. And if anybody who reads Kamen America hasn't been reading Black Ops, we really recommend that you check out Black Ops. It's a sister series to Kamen America. It features a lot of characters from Kamen America crossing over in it, and a lot of characters from Black Ops cross over into Kamen America. But you'll see a lot of Vicky and Sylvia, particularly in Black Ops Volume 5, the Soul Finder crossover, and they'll be again in Black Ops Volume 6 coming at the end of the year. But the two books complement each other, and you'll see growth from certain characters in Black Ops that'll show up in Kamen America and vice versa. But we were able to share villains, like Bandit Okami shows up in Kamen America Volume 5, and he's a Black Ops villain, but we're able to just kind of like pass villains back and forth between them. And Bandit Okami is one of the most fun villains that I've ever gotten to write, and that's actually a Tim character, because we had this generic villain with a sword. We called him, I think his name was originally like Bandit Coyote. Yeah, Bandit Scorpion or Bandit Coyote, something like that. He was really generic, like this Antonio Banderas kind of like Zorro character. And Tim just called me up one night. He's like, Mark, what if we make him a weeb? And I'm like, oh yeah! And so we rewrote all of his dialogue at the last minute to just be this weeb dialogue, this Japanophile dialogue, and he just became like the funnest character to write. Yes. And I've been having a blast with that guy in Black Ops and Kamen America, and he's great. It's just this one little suggestion can turn like an character up to a 10.
And I was recently on somebody else's stream, Robert Willing, and we were going over all the volumes of Kamen America and Black Ops. And once the reveal about Vicky happened, we went back and found all the Easter eggs, and we were talking about that on his stream. And that's something I love. It's one of the reasons I like One Piece, is because Oda is always planting seeds for the future. And then when it gets revealed, you're like, I remember when that happened back in volume such and such. So that I find that really interesting that you guys do that. Is there any more maybe Easter eggs being planted for the future?
There are, but they're very, very, very hidden, and you won't be able to tell what they are until Volume 8. So what we have for Volume 8 is a conclusion where you will be able to look back over 4 volumes and be like, there was some definite foreshadowing going on throughout. And then we're also setting up events to transpire all the way to the Volume 20. So, I mean, we're talking like far, far into the future. But the good thing is that in a way it's easier now because not only do we have a roadmap for it, but now I know that anytime I have space to put in Easter eggs in the background, I'm going to take the chance. So kind of knowing where it's going gives me the opportunity to be like, gonna drop this here because I know we won't have it pay off in the next 2 volumes, but in 3 volumes, definitely.
Here's a little one that we can give away, and this is a very simple one. It's not going to spoil anything for anybody. If you go back and you reread Kamen America Volume 2, and Kimiko's giving her origin about, the Kaneko-chan instant feast and everything, there's one panel where she's a little kid and the mascot of Kappa Kapu, the big ramen cup with the wall eyes, is like putting a hand on her shoulder and she's looking terrified. And that was just a one-panel gag of this. I think in the script I wrote, I didn't even design Captain Kapu in the script. I just said, Tim, draw a cup ramen mascot who looks really scary and weird and is putting a shoulder on little Kimiko's shoulder, putting a hand on her shoulder, and she's scared. And then Tim drew this like ridiculous-looking cup ramen thing. Then we developed Kappa Kapu after that. And one of our Japanese friends, Noon-chan, he loved the design of Kappa Kapu so much that he drew a whole series of Kappa Kapu fan art of Kappa Kapu just being this weird, scary monster that just like crawls out of the margins and just like frightens people. And so we ran with that. And then in the Kamen America Gaiden, in the bonus story, that's you'll only find in the print version of Kamen America Gaiden, it's not on the website, we talk about the origin of Kappa Kapu and Kimiko. And that Kimiko, when she was a little kid, she was the Kaneko-chan instant feast girl in all the commercials. She'd be sitting there like, hey everybody, eat Kaneko-chan instant ramen, it's yummy. And then Kappa Kapu was like the Lucky the Leprechaun or Chester Cheetah who would just pop up like, give me your ramen, and try to steal it from her. And he would just like torment her and scare her in all those commercials, and that's why she's frightened of him. That's why he's this scary monster to her, even though he was just a corporate mascot character. And we were just able to write this whole backstory of this stupid little mascot and Kimiko and why she's scared of him based on one single panel that Tim drew. And that's going to keep on growing. You'll find out more in Kamen America Volume 8, 9, and whatever. But it was just something that grew from one little drawing in Kamen America Volume 2.
There was a guy, I had shared it with Mark privately, but this guy was like, hey, I have this prediction. I think this is where everything is going to go. And here are like the hints. And I was looking at his tweet thread, and I think it only got shared twice. And I was like, this guy literally figured everything out. And he was like, yeah.
No.
And Mark was like, yeah, but you better not share it. And I was like, I'm not going to share it. But, it's there.
Please delete.
But the funny thing is that there was another guy, and I posted this not too long ago. He was like, I've been looking at the trading cards that they put out, and I think that there's actually significance to their blood types, because if you'll notice, Carly is an O negative, which means she's the universal donor, kind of like how America is kind of like we're a big superpower. People kind of see us as like the beneficiary of the world, so there's some symbolism in there. And it only makes sense that Sylvia is an O positive because they're rivals, so they would have kind of opposing blood types but still the same letter. And I was like, see, now you see all the Easter eggs I'm putting in. But I was like, and there's more. If you look at the blood types of the other members, Misha is a B negative, because get it? B negative. She's like the she's kind of like the surly character of the bunch, whereas
the pessimist,
yes. whereas Kimiko is B positive, because it's like, get it? B positive. Same thing with Marmot Maiden. Her blood type is also B positive. But the one that I was so shocked that no one discovered was for Sylvia, her blood type is O positive, so it's like O plus plus plus, so it's like oh ho 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 ho, like the laugh. So if you're paying attention, we put stuff like that in there. There's a lot of Easter eggs that people haven't found yet, and that's fine. Like, it's not necessary. But Mark and I are, we kind of get a kick out of laughing about it with each other. Because, most of the time I just put in there to amuse myself. When I'm drawing a crowd or something, it's like, I don't want to just draw a crowd. I want it to be kind of funny and almost like a hunt for something interesting if you're paying attention.
All right, next question. Badger. Is he ever going to get superpowers and join Black Ops?
We cannot reveal information about Badger, so that is definitely top secret.
Top secret.
Don't get me wrong. I know people are asking about it, but it's like that's for us. That's for us to know and for you to find out.
Exactly. So you have Volume 8 coming up. When are you going to drop it again?
Right now, so as of this recording, it is currently June the 9th. We are thinking about dropping it either on the 21st or the 28th. In all transparency, the only reason why there's a week difference is because Scott Malin is dropping his book, Kindred Heavens, on the 21st. And out of courtesy to him, I think we should let him run his campaign rather than have two dueling campaigns. Now, Eric Canetti and I dropped Arc Athena and Kamen America 5 on the same day, and I don't think it interfered really on either of our campaigns, but we also can wait. Like, it's not imperative that we launch on the same day. So hopefully we can launch on the 28th, which will be the last Wednesday of the month, and that way everyone has a clear runway. But that's what we're looking at right now. I've already assembled the campaign. We have our last piece of merchandise has come in, so we're good to go. And it should be a pretty easy breezy, fast campaign that concludes in late July, and we'll have like a mid-August fulfillment.
Oh, nice. Speaking of merchandise, is there anything new we should expect?
From what we've revealed so far, for Volume 8, there will be a plush toy, so that's going to be the Carly plush. The cheapest item we're gonna have is the Badger beanie, which I'm holding right here. It's super cool. So it's an orange beanie that looks like Badger. So when you wear it, it looks like you have a capybara on your head. And and then we will have the Omnibus 2 for people who like omnibuses. And then the high tier item will be the Kamen Ramen statuette, which is technically a noodle stomper. So it's something that you put on top of ramen noodles to keep the top down and keep it warm. But
it's in scale with the Carly statuette from the previous campaign.
Yeah, so you can have them right next to each other, and they look like they're the same, same scale and same ratio.
Nice. And I know right now you do have sign-ups to be notified about the campaign.
Correct. So again, all of our items are limited. And so we always encourage people to sign up to make sure that they can get in at least the first 48 hours before certain items sell out.
We did have some people on Indiegogo for Kamen America 7, because Indiegogo we do smaller quantities on, because that has a smaller group of people who only do Indiegogo. So if you are an Indiegogo exclusive user, sign up for notifications or at least keep track of the campaign. So you don't miss out on the exclusive stuff that's going to be available there.
And I'll have all the links down below for everybody who wants to sign up for both campaigns. Guys, I'm very grateful that you came on my show. I love your book. I'm looking forward to 8. Can't wait to see where it's going to go next. And hopefully we can get together again in the future and talk maybe some anime and manga.
Yeah.
I know we're big fans. And I do want to point out, I did love the Spy Family cameo.
Oh, yeah. The interesting thing is when I was drawing that one panel, at the time, Spy Family was not like a big thing, and so I was like, I'm just gonna put that in there because I like it. And immediately people were like, "Oh, you put that in there!" And Mark had actually warned me because he was like, "Now moving forward, you got to be a lot more subtle because in Japan they don't like it. Well, the readers like it, but the companies don't like it when you do that." So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to be very, very tongue-in-cheek from now on. Speaking of anime and manga, I was watching one recently where they did that, like, it was a Good Luck Gal, and they had like Vegeta and Goku show up, but they had these giant black bar sensors over their eyes.
They have black bars over their eyes every time now. That's the thing, yeah.
And so I saw that, and I thought of Mark, because I was like, oh, that's the thing Mark warned me about. Like, they really don't like it when you do
Fair use in Japan is very different from the US. If you go to Japanese Wikipedia, you'll see there's like no images on Japanese Wikipedia because their fair use is totally different from ours. So moving forward, we're going to be a little more prudent with that.
It's one of the reasons I stopped showing interiors for the manga when I'm doing review. Too many people have gotten hit. But again, guys, I am so happy that you came on my show. I am looking forward to Kamen America Volume 8. I will have all the links again down below. Anything else you want to say to everybody?
No, I just want to say for people listening to Nerdygirlcreates, thank you for your support, especially in the last few weeks. I mean, like, we saw such an outpouring of love from a lot of our readers, and that was very heartening to witness and to see, and don't get me wrong, it was very much appreciated. So we're working hard to keep our entertainment going, and so if you are invested in Kamen America, that train is not ending anytime soon. In fact, I think we're actually going to be raising the stakes with Volume 8. We've let a lot of people pre-read it to get their feedback. A lot of tears, a lot of very emotional people, and that's exactly what we wanted. So you're in for a wild ride if you pick that one up, but we guarantee you that we're just getting started, and we just want to thank you all for putting up with us and being patient with us as we continue the saga of Kamen America and Black Ops.
Well, thank you again, guys, and I want to thank everybody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below, show us your love for Kamen America, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye.